Season: A Letter to the Future is a beautiful and tranquil adventure game that shouldn't take you more than 2 hours to complete. It's a bite-sized indie game that'll transport you off to a distant, marvelous land as a cataclysm is about to completely reset the world as you know it. Before the season ends, it's your job to capture it, along with its people, culture, and history, in what will ultimately become a letter to the future. You play as Estelle, a young woman that's lived her entire life in a village at the top of a mountain. This village has been secluded for an entire generation, keeping it safe from any changes in the season, but also keeping its people locked inside. That's about to change with you. You're the first person to leave the village in such a long time for the sole purpose of capturing the season in what your people call an era. Equipped with a camera, sketchbook, and an audio recorder, you wander off into the valley outside your home to capture the essence of this season before a cataclysmic storm wipes it away and brings in a new one. As Estelle explores the valley outside of her village, she'll come across all sorts of locations, monuments, and personalities that all have a history and story. These ultimately fill her scrapbook and are recorded for future generations. While I enjoyed the premise of the story, I felt that the writing for the various personalities you meet were a mixed bag. Some were better written and delivered than others, and the juxtaposition and quality was easily apparent to me. With that said, when I did complete my 2-hour expedition, I found myself coming back with more positives than negatives with this experience. Your time in the valley is composed of riding your bike around gorgeous landscapes, taking photos of anything you want to preserve, sketching notable pieces, and audio recordings of anything interesting. Anything you capture gets added to your book that you can then rearrange into what ultimately will become your own letter to the future. Riding your bike around the lovely vistas is so peaceful. It's only the start of the year, but it's already shaping up to be one of the better looking games of this year, just visually. Rearranging and designing my own pages for various areas and people was therapeutic. While I didn't really go into the game knowing what the gameplay was going to be like, I ended up really liking putting these pages together. Going around and choosing what I wanted to capture and how that page would be designed was actually pretty fun. You're able to arrange objects on a page any way you see fit, and even increase and rotate objects too. As you complete more pages, you'll unlock stands for those dedicated areas that can further decorate the page. While there are objectives you must complete to get to the end game, not every one of them is required, but likewise, you can miss out on completing certain areas and have them lost to history. It's for this very reason that you're encouraged to explore every nook and cranny there is to explore and capture. Season features a vibrant and colorful cel-shaded design that looks stunning in motion. Lighting paints the valley like a beautiful canvas as the time of day progresses throughout the 2-hour adventure. The widescreen aspect ratio only further helps sell that this was meant to be a movie-like cinematic experience. Riding my bike around the village looked like I was watching a movie trailer, well, at least until I fought the camera. For once, I actually do wish I had less control of the camera, as panning around didn't always feel smooth and occasionally felt stuttery. There is an option to have it auto-aim when you walk around, and I highly recommend doing so. It was cinematic when it worked, but it didn't always work. Some animation felt a bit incomplete too. For example, the animation of getting on the bike and getting off the bike felt like a jump cut. In scenes where characters were supposed to speak to each other, it looked a little off to see characters' mouths not moving despite them speaking. The game is available on PS4, PS5, and PC, and I opted to play on my computer using a Ryzen 3700X and an RTX 3060 Ti. I was able to run this at a native 1440p high settings locked at 60fps with no problem. I was able to also load this up on my Steam Deck, although technically it's not optimized for it. On the Steam Deck, I was able to run this at a medium settings with a full 800p resolution, hovering around 40 frames per second. Turning on DLSS helps stabilize that a bit better too. If you're bummed out about this not coming to the Switch but have a Steam Deck, rest assured that you can play this on the go just fine with it. Season is filled with plenty of instrumentals that evoke this sense of peace and wonder throughout its playthrough. Walking through the streets of Karo, you'll hear bells and guitar strings guide you toward the plaza where the ambient noise of trees rustling along to the wind accompany it. It's a game that you can easily close your eyes in and then begin to imagine yourself there solely based on the sound. Voice acting was mostly good. While I have 1 or 2 characters that sounded like they recorded their audio in different locations on different microphones seconds apart, the rest of the cast sounded great. I don't want to name specifics, but I think there's one character you meet along the way that I found myself most gravitated to, solely based on the actor's ability to capture their excitement yet hesitation. Season: A Letter to the Future is a peaceful and charming adventure game that, despite some technical hiccups, I thought was a nice time. It's pretty slow paced both in gameplay and storytelling, but if you enjoyed games like Gone Home and Pokemon Snap, you may enjoy the gameplay for this one. I thought it was calming and relaxing. I do wish the animation and the camera were a bit better polished, but to call this an ugly game would be a lie. At its $25 to $30 price tag, depending on what platform you're on, I think Season is a delightful story and premise, but unless you're into these slower paced adventure games, you might want to grab it on sale.